What's up, everybody? Welcome back. In a previous video, I shared about how we had a really nasty sulfur smell coming from our hot water, and then talked about the process that we thought we were going to need to do to fix that, which was changing the anode rod in the water heater. And I'm happy to report that we did that process and it was successful, so we do not have the sulfur smell coming from our water anymore. So if you missed that last video, I'll just give a brief overview of why the smell was happening. So the anode rod inside of the water heater, the purpose of that is to attract corrosive materials to itself so that the rod will corrode and not the tank itself. So it's called a sacrificial anode rod because it's sacrificing itself so that it will deteriorate and not the tank, which is great. But those rods are often made of magnesium or aluminum, and in some well water, apparently from what I understand, not all well water is going to have this problem. If you have a certain type of sulfite or a certain level of sulfites, it will interact with the aluminum or the magnesium in the rod and create, I believe it's hydrogen sulfide, which creates that terrible sulfur smell. So the solution was to change the anode rod. We ordered one from Amazon. I'll link to that below, and it did fix the problem. So in this video, I'm just going to show you the process that we went through to do that. Hopefully this is helpful for you if you ever find yourself in a position where you need to change the anode rod in your water heater. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Let's get into it. Okay, so this little rusted cap right here, this is the top of the anode rod, and then the rod hangs down from it into the tank, and this is the part that we needed to remove. We did order one off of Amazon, and again, I'll link that in the description. It comes pretty long, but you can cut it, the little spaces that are in between there, you can cut it to fit the specific size of your tank. We did need to leave ours the full length for the size of our tank, but it comes with some tape so that you can seal around it so it doesn't leak, and then came with the instructions, and the instructions were pretty good and pretty clear. I'm not going to read everything on there, but it does give a little introduction as to why the sulfur smell is happening, the steps that you need to do to get the tank ready as far as turning off the valves, draining everything out, and then what you need to do to clean it as well before you replace the anode rod. So we're going to be walking through the steps of that in this video. So the first thing was that we needed to get the valve turned off. There was a lot of corrosion on the outside of this tank, so we ran into some issues just getting things to come off, which we'll show you in just a second. But we got that taken care of, and then this is where the first problem began. The lid or the cap, I guess, to the anode rod was corroded and did not want to budge. So he's using power tools here to try to get this off of there, and it just did not want to come off. So as you can see, he's turning it and it's moving the entire tank, and we were afraid that he was going to dislodge something. So he built this little, I don't even know what to call it, honestly, but he tied a rubber mat to the outside of it with a ratchet strap, and then we put in some pieces of wood so that we could kind of just maneuver it. And then he got this long pipe and put the pipe around the wrench and used it as leverage, I guess. So maybe it's like a giant lever that we're creating. I don't know. There's probably a better word for it. But after working it this way for a while, it did finally start to move. There was a big thump sound, and I was like, oh no, what just happened? But it was just because it was loosening. So it was really, really, really stuck on there. I don't know when the last time was that somebody replaced this. We have no clue. The anode rods they are very effective, but they only last for about 2 to 3 years from what I understand. So it might have been 2 or 3 years ago. It might have been 10 years ago. We're kind of leaning toward the longer end of that because when he pulled the cap out, there was no rod. There was no rod on the end of it. So that was a surprise to us. But when we started to run some of the water, which I'll show you here in a minute, there were just chunks of stuff coming out of the water. It looked like little calcified pieces of magnesium and minerals. And so who knows? I think that the whole thing just deteriorated. It probably did that a long time ago. And then anytime that one of the kids would take a bath, there was this ring of like gritty minerals left in the tub afterward. And so they weren't taking many baths. They were preferring to take showers, but thankfully that's been solved now. So this was inside of the thing. It was just grimy. He took some steel wool and cleaned out a little bit of the stuff there, but there was just a whole bunch of stuff built up inside of that thing. So we needed to drain the entire tank. The instructions said that you needed to drain it and then pour in hydrogen peroxide, 3%, 32 ounces for the tank. So we did that, and then you fill it back up. You leave the peroxide there, so you're not going to be able to drink the water right afterward, which we don't anyway. We have a filter. We're not drinking anything directly from the tap. And then you put the new anode rod in. So that's what he's doing here. And as you can see, we did use the whole length because of the size of our tank. So we got that put in there, and we weren't really sure how long it was going to take before the smell would go away. But when Zach went to go take a shower that same night, it was already gone. So that's great. We're glad that this was a relatively easy fix. We ran into the surprise of there not being a rod in there, which I don't know, maybe that's more common than I realize it is. I don't really know how long those things take to fully deteriorate, but we took off the little MacGyver thing that he made here and then put the tank back into place, and we haven't had any issues with the smell or the hot water since. So really, really glad that that worked, and glad that we don't have to smell that anymore when I'm doing dishes. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.